Well, hello. Welcome to Curlis Mania, where we talk all things pop, rock, and prog. Man, a new episode for you, a new guest, very special guest. And first things first, before I do anything else, I'd like to introduce him. You probably already know him. If you ever watch Sea of Tranquility or In the Prog Seat or For Fusion Friday, his name is George Lamie. Welcome, George.
Going on, Tom? Good to be here.
Man, thanks for coming. I appreciate it. It's really fun to have you on the channel. So thank you for joining me and talking about, talking about one of the best bands of all time, right? So,
Yeah.
we're both flying the flag here. I'm wearing the wrong shirt. He's wearing the right shirt, but this is nothing wrong about this shirt. Don't get me,
Mm.
um, anyway, George and I are here to discuss Rush, the great band from Toronto, and we are here to talk. We're going to do an album battle between 1977's Farewell to Kings and 1978's Hemispheres. Yes, indeed. Pretty a very. I got to say, this is a very very tough battle. I'm going to say it right off the top.
Yeah,
Very very difficult. These are both amazing. So this one's going to be an interesting discussion.
no doubt.
Yeah. What was your what came first for you, George? Did you get which album for you?
I I think I saw they did a track for Don Kirshner's rock concert. I would think it was Closer to the Heart that I saw on TV when I was a kid, but I didn't dig in, so I
Mhm.
didn't hear the album. It wasn't until Moving Pictures, older kid guitar player on my block, he introduced me. Well, no, Permanent Waves when that was on the radio. That then I was more interested. I at least heard that album. I didn't own it yet. Moving Pictures is when I basically became an album collector. And then I went back, and the first one when I went back was Hemispheres.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did that hook you right away?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Already what I had heard from my friend's copy of Moving Pictures, I was like blown away. But then you never know. You go back and the stuff you go back on maybe is not up to par. Oh, it was up to par.
Oh,
It was,
oh yeah, it was. Oh
yeah.
yeah. No question. And no, I do remember, like, I think Spirit of Radio was the first thing that was a pretty big radio song,
Yeah.
you know.
You remember these things that they had? I forget what they call them. It was like a faux album cover, and there was a piece of gum inside that was shaped like a vinyl. And they had one for Permanent Waves. It was 1980 because they had British Steel. They had other bands too, but the only ones I remember are Permanent Waves and British Steel.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember that for some reason.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Permanent Waves was pretty big record. And then, like you said, then Moving Pictures was just everywhere.
yeah,
That they really blew up with Moving Pictures. I remember that album just being like everyone owned it, it was one
yes,
of those. And everyone went to see the concert except for me. But like we were talking earlier, George actually you did see the Moving Pictures tour.
yes.
So that's pretty awesome. Was because I always picture them and the exit stage left, like with Alex with the red jacket playing you
Yeah, I
know,
wish I was a picture taker. I would know that, but
yeah.
I don't remember what the hell.
So, where was it in Chicago, by the way? Was it, did you,
Yeah, the long gone building called the International Amphitheater, a real dump. Uh, but yeah, that was the last time they played there. Next time they came around, they were onto a building that became the building around town, then the Rosemont Horizon.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, that was the last gig at the amphitheater.
wow, yeah. That and the Aragon Brawl Room, we used to call it. I've seen a
Yeah,
couple shows at the Aragon, and it's like, ooh, sound is tough there.
yeah, it was no, it wasn't built for music. I think it was built for dancing back in the day. So you got these big high ceilings. It's not the best sounding room.
No, definitely not. It's bouncing all over the place.
Yeah.
Uh, but But anyway, so what I'm going to do real quick, I do this every episode. I'm going to try to do, this is tough with Rush because there's a lot to cover, but I'm going to try to do a quick overall, overall history of Rush until they released Farewell to Kings. So, and George, feel free to jump in if at any point if I miss something big, please jump in. Um, formed in Toronto in 1968 by childhood friends. I mean, and most Rush guys are gonna know all this anyway, but some people may not. So, just give you a little tutorial. Um, childhood friends Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson. Actually, I think Rutsey was friends with Alex. I think is how it went, and then Geddy Lee came in later, actually, and they were a power trio. Basically, first LP was released in 1974, self-titled Rush. It's much more rootsy, down to earth rock and roll. A lot of people say it's Zeppelin-y. I never really, I mean, yeah, a little bit. I never really heard the Zeppelin thing. I mean, of course his vocal, I get that. But it's more like Humble Pie or Bad Company, or I mean, it's just the
Yeah.
type of music, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that statement. It's
Yeah.
more generalizing hard rock, and then he had the high voice. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, and obviously he hit some really huge high notes. I'm sure that people just immediately thought Robert Plant.
yeah,
Um, but Working Man obviously gets picked up by a radio and by a station in Cleveland, and they actually they start getting some traction on that record based on Working Man. And they start getting the attention of the record company, um and then really quickly actually Rutsey does not ends up leaving the band for various reasons. I think he liked the more straight ahead rock thing that they were doing, and Alex and Geddy wanted to go more progressive, a little bit more experimental, like more like the Yes and Genesis stuff that they were listening to. Um, so Rutsey ended up leaving, and they did auditions for drummers, and in comes Neil Peart, one of the best drummers of all time. Um, and I love the story. I think there's a story on the documentary where George, Getty says he couldn't help his excitement. He kept he was supposed to like Alex like play it cool, man, play it cool. But he's like, as soon as he heard Neil play, he's like, oh my god, this guy's amazing. You know,
I've been in band room auditions like that where you don't want to let on how geeked you are when someone comes in and just nails it.
yeah.
And I don't want to give it all up, but it's tough.
It's pretty hard if someone's that good. You're like, you
Yeah,
can't help it, right?
definitely.
It's because when he's doing all the triplets and all the it's like and Neil can do that like nobody else. And so anyway, so he joins in 1974, and I believe you might correct me if I'm wrong, George. I think he finishes the tour for the first album, or he jumped in the middle of it. What was that? What?
He,
Or,
I don't know that Rutsey did any dates out of town.
okay, okay.
Neil did the most of it, if not all of it. I don't know.
He did the whole U.S. tour for sure.
Yeah,
So really I mean, he jumped into the band, and he was in the band for that most of that, or if not all, I mean, all of that tour. I don't know. So anyway, so they quickly record Fly By Night, a follow-up in February 1975, which is more complex, a little, and they're starting to show where they wanted to go, with things, like By Torn the Snow Dog, and um is Anthem on that record?
yeah,
Yeah. I love that song. Oh my God, Anthem's so great.
yeah,
So they're starting to show what a band they're going to become. But they still have a little bit of that first record, but not little taste of it, but it's definitely heading in a different direction. And then they really go all in, in September 75 with Caress of Steel, which is like fantasy-based songs, much longer, things like The Necromancer, conceptual pieces, Fountain of Lamneth. I mean, it's just like they really go full in with the prog. Um, and this was going to be like the record company's like, this is going to be the breakthrough, and it ends up kind of flopping. Like, I guess people just didn't dig it. Like, the record company didn't like it that much. They were kind of like, where's the Rush that we know? The where's the Working Man Rush? What happened to that band? You know. Um, So, and apparently there was, according to them, they were smoking a ton of pot during that making that album, and they were kind of like, I don't know, it was just a different. I personally like Caress of Steel. I don't know what your take is on that album.
I mean, I like it okay, but I get why people don't take to it. There's certain Paul over the whole thing, partially production, partially just it's just some lack of I don't know. It's just it's in between two records that are kind of similar, but they're both definitely better for me. So
Yeah. No, I agree. There's just so clumsiness to it for some reason. Like some of the
yeah,
tracks,
something
you
I
know.
can't put my thumb on, but it ain't quite right.
Yeah, yeah. As much as you enjoy it, you can feel that it's not as, so 2112, they're basically they're on the verge of getting dropped by Mercury. And because they weren't happy with the album, they toured with Caress of Steel, and the tour was, they called it the Down the Tubes tour. I mean, it was like they weren't getting the reaction they were getting before with these new songs. So they went in, they really doubled down with 2112, and they released it in March 1976. And like you just said, I mean, it was a much more focused, powerful version of Caress of Steel, where they went in with some serious and some much more energy. To me, it's like, I don't know, there's focus and energy, they're different on 2112. Um,
Yeah,
you know.
it's there's some dinginess to Carousel Steel, even though song for song, I mean, Bastille Day sounds like, it's up tempo. Everything on there is pretty much up tempo. It's just, I don't know. There's something missing, and 2112 had that something.
Yes, exactly, exactly. That's about all you can say, right? It's like it's just
Yeah,
something, right? That's a great way to say it. Caressa Steel was missing something. 2112 corrected it. And when you listen to 2112, it's kind of the same idea of doing a long conceptual piece, but it works, it just works. Oh my God,
yeah.
it's great. And even the second side, I love the second side too, with all the songs. And so anyway, so then they 2112 is a hit, a surprise hit. They tour, and the tour is very successful. And then they end up putting out a live album for the first time called All the World's a Stage, which is another big hit in 1976, September 76. So that's kind of puts a chapter, like that's end of chapter one, and it's their first live LP, and it actually does very well. And people really, that gives them also a little bit of a breather to record the next record. So they can go back to the drawing board after 2112. And I believe they did a pretty extensive tour in 76. So they were really rolling at this point, really, really working hard. And they basically go to a studio in Wales, called Rockfield, and they start to work on the next record, which is A Farewell to Kings. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to George, and if you would just jump into your basically impressions of Farewell to Kings. What is your take on Farewell to Kings?
Well, it's the proverbial stepped it up album. I mean, 2112 is only really half progressive. That second side is not terribly progressive. It's more like the Fly By Night stuff,
Yeah,
mildly progressive hard rock.
yeah,
Rebel to Kings is all the way. I mean, they're all in here.
yeah,
The title track to me is it's a great opener. It's one of the underappreciated songs in their catalog to me. I don't, it doesn't seem to show up on a lot of Rush playlists, Rush greatest hits kind of things, but I think it should. And Cinderella Man is another one that I think is totally underappreciated. Really like that tune. Everybody knows the two long songs. I mean, there's no way those are favorites for the all the fan base. Love those Xanadu, Cygnus X1 for good reason. They're sweets. They go, especially Xanadu, it just goes through all these beautiful parts. Great playing. You come to the other two songs, Closer to the Heart, objectively is a really good song. It's almost at this point in time, it's almost the I wouldn't be so sad if they didn't play it live kind of song. The only one that's more that way is Limelight. They just they hammer it every live release. It's on every album. I don't think it needs to be that present, but objectively, it's a really good song. I mean, you're not
yeah,
going to feel the way you felt when you first heard it, but it's a really good song. The Sore Thumb is Madrigal. It's a ballad, very simplistic in its form. There's a It's basically verse, chorus out. So it's a short song at 2:35. It's the only song on the record they did not take out live. I don't know that they ever did, but definitely on this tour they didn't. So that speaks to their confidence in it. It might have been a fill out the time track thing. I don't know that, but yeah, I mean it's possible. The
Could
record could
be.
have
It
been
could, yeah,
short.
yeah.
The chorus melody is actually kind of pretty, but the verses are a little dull. But I mean, small quibbles because the rest of this absolutely smokes, I think. Classics up and down the line. I mean, even to this day, I would love to hear the two long tracks, Farewell to Kings, Cinderella Man. I would love to hear any of those. If they played those live, I'd be like, man, yes, this is play this. This is great. So
Oh yeah.
fantastic album that starts a really fantastic era of their career.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, this album just it just grew on me. The more I listened to it, the more I liked it. It's one of those records. It's like first time you hear it, you kind of go, okay, this is cool. And then like second time, oh yeah, man, this is really cool. Like third time, you're like, this is a masterpiece, man.
I think those songs I said were unassuming, but the title track and Cinderella Man might be because of the acoustic. He's playing more acoustic on this album than I don't know, many of the albums. And that could be because of that, like the verses in Cinderella Man. He's just playing those chords and running it through all of the title tracks. So that could have something to do with it, but I don't know. To me, they both smoke.
Oh God, yeah. Cinderella Man is such a great deep track. I mean, that
Yeah.
is I mean that when they did it, ding, 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 it's just like it's so tight. So like you said, it's got different layers of guitar on it. It's man, that is a great song.
Yeah.
Um,
That's for those that don't have it. I was always upset that it never had turned up on a live album, but they when they did the reissue of Farewell to Kings, there was a live disc in it and Cinderella Man's on there.
oh, nice,
Yeah,
nice.
you can get a
Yeah.
live version of it.
Is that a good version? Do you like it?
Oh yeah. I
Yeah. Yeah.
think it's from a show in England.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. Very cool. Yeah. I mean, really, side one is like impeccable. I mean, Farewell to Kings and I mean, Xanadu is like one of my favorite all-time Rush tracks. There's just Xanadu. I mean, it's been, like you said, it's been played a lot. It's on a lot of live records, but man, it's so good.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know. I mean and the guys from UFO would make fun of the lyrics and stuff. I drank the honeydew or whatever. I have dined on honeydew. But who cares? The music to me alone is just takes me away. Um, just unbelievable, and it goes through so many moods. And what's so funny is that I remember thinking the Farewell to Kings was longer than Xanadu. No, it's not even close.
No.
No, Xanadu's way longer. Um,
I like how the two epics are different too. Xanadu's got all this pretty stuff, and then Cygnus X1 is very dark, very foreboding,
yeah,
some like sci-fi. It's
yeah.
kind of
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Xanadu sort of has that fantasy thing going on a little bit. And then that do 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 do, he's got all that stuff in the middle. And then it's like you said, Cygnus X1 is completely dark. It's like a dark sci-fi epic where isn't he getting sucked into a black hole or something like that,
yeah.
basically?
Yeah.
And then when Getty does that vocal on Cygnus X1, that's like it's like crazy vocal.
Yeah.
Uh insane.
Yeah. Some of the parts on that the sound like they're barely keeping control. They're almost going off the rails, which
Yeah.
is always exciting.
Which I love. I love that. I
Yeah.
love Yeah, and he does that vocal that it's so unhinged on Cygnus X1 that you don't think you ever hear him do that like again. I mean, maybe a little bit on Hemispheres, but not quite to that degree. But yeah, I agree with you. Closer to the Heart, I'm not. I mean, like you said, it's a good song, but I don't love it as much as the rest of the album.
No.
It's such a simplistic song for them. It's nice. People love it. I mean, and when they play it live, people go crazy. So I can't. It's hard to fault it, but I don't know, there's just something about that closer to the heart. It's just so different for this album. It seems like it's kind of an outlier.
It's
Um,
a little cloying in its way, but I mean, I
it's
won't bag on it too much because I do think it's a well put together song.
Yeah, it's still a good song, and it still did. I mean, it did well. I mean, it was like the single, and it did well. So and people love it. They play it live, and everyone sings along. So it's obviously a very catchy song that people really love. So, um, but it just for me, it's sort of like you said with Madrigal as well. Those are the two. I couldn't agree more that's what I had in my notes. That those are the two that sort of stick out a little bit as different from the rest of the album.
Yeah.
You know. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with different. It's just for the side one and Cygnus X1, just like whoa, and Cinderella Man, like 5-star songs.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's pretty hard so anyway, that's my take. I absolutely love this record as well. It's an awesome
Yeah.
album. And there
It
seems
is.
to be a confidence level too that went up a little bit on this one, you know.
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
So
They're hitting on all cylinders.
yeah, for sure. No question. Um So okay, so that's that was pretty quick because it was so amazing. It's pretty hard to criticize anything on this album. So now we're moving on. And by the way, it's arguable, but I would say that this is the most progressive that Rush gets. These two records, is that fair to say?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So this is the most aggressive they get as far as being and I think that they knew they had at this point, maybe they knew they had fans that
It's,
weren't going to go away.
yeah, it's definitely part of their objective here. I mean, they're out to be progressive, which some of the stuff may have come about naturally, but this, they're looking to do it here, which is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, they're delving in, and it's amazing. So Hemispheres is their sixth record, released in October 78. It went to number 14 in Canada and number 47 in the US. Actually, I think I have the stats for Farewell to Kings it was number 11 in Canada and top 40 in the US and the UK. So they were by this point they were like a band on. I mean, they were not just on the rise anymore. They were kind of making it at this point. They're putting out albums that are getting on pretty high on Canadian lists and US as well. All that live work starting to pay off, I think. Um, so
Yeah,
they
that worked back then.
What's that?
That's how it worked back then. That's how you built your fan base. That and the
Yeah.
radio.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what's so great about Rush is they really did do it the right way. They dug in and got on the road, and probably the most hardworking band. I mean, one of the most hardworking at that time. They just never stopped. I mean, I think I saw a YouTube interview with Getty, and it's like they're interviewing him, and they're like, "How many shows did you play this year?" And he's like, "I don't know, close to 200." He's like, and he seems like he's exhausted. He's like, "Yeah, 200." Like, it's like, oh my God, holy crap, you know.
Yeah, they were definitely road dogs
They
all the
were.
way too, not just then, all the way to the end.
Yeah, that's true. They never really stopped.
Not too much,
They
no.
never stopped. Um, so anyway, so they returned to Rockfield to record this one in June and July of 78, again with Terry Brown. And so I'm going to hand it over to you again for your take on Hemispheres.
Well, this one lays out in a really, really nicely. The old vinyl first side is just one song. Cygnus X1 book two. I just call it Hemispheres. I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
18 minutes and change. 1804. To me, that's a really concise statement. A lot of these times you get these long epics, and it just feels like a bunch of 3-minute sections jammed together. This absolutely doesn't. It feels like an actual 18-minute song. Great playing, great idea. At the time, I'm not a big lyrics guy anymore, but at the time I was fascinated by all the Greek mythology references. I thought it was like super cool. So that's always been a favorite track of mine. Circumstances, you open side two, it's like the heavy neck snapper, man. That's the one you just jam to. Uh Kind of reminds me of maybe like the fly by night stuff, like something like Anthem or something like that.
Yeah,
Somewhere is really going for the heavy.
yeah,
The Trees is the lyrical allegory. That was a big live track. You know, everybody loves the version on Exit Stage Left. I always liked the Trees. I mean, my mom had this boyfriend at the time, and I would be playing the album, and he heard it, and he would make fun of the lyrics. He thought that was the stupidest thing ever. Taking it seriously, like trees are talking. What is this crap? Like,
the
it's over
oaks and
your
the
head.
maples. What?
Yeah, I'm like, it's over your head, dude. And then La Villa, of course. You know, everyone can you could argue about the best Rush instrumental, but to me, it's not an argument. This is better than YYZ. It's just every part of it is so cool. Uh, Especially the bass break into the drum breaks, that whole section. That's incredible. Um, and then the guitar playing in this tune, both the acoustic intro and that long feel solo over the slow part. I mean, it's one of Alex's best to me. So I've always loved this song. I gotta say, I love all four of these songs. This
Yeah.
album is like impregnable. If there's something to complain about, I don't know what it is. Maybe you do.
No, it's so true. It's like these are, it's like all we're doing is gushing, but it's like these two albums are just incredible. Um, so the yeah, Cygnus X1 Book 2 agreed. It's like basically the Cygnus X1 on Farewell to Kings kind of ends on a cliffhanger apparently because he goes in, doesn't he like go into the black hole and then there's like the end. And so you're
Yeah,
like,
and even the audio is like kind of
yeah.
tail.
Yeah, so you're like, what happened? What's the deal? What's gonna happen? So of course it seems to be continued. I think it does or something. So so sure enough, the it continued on book two. And like you said, I just call it Hemispheres as well. But it's kind of odd because it's like, okay, we're talking about, yeah, there you go. Look at that. That's the poster that came with it, right?
I think this was in the old vinyl was a gatefold. I think this was in the gatefold.
Oh,
So they just
nice.
put it in as a booklet in the CD.
Yeah, I think it's in my because I bought the reissue and it's like it came as like a poster. Like
Oh, nice.
yeah, which is, I guess you could put this on, back in the day, you'd put this on your wall.
Yeah,
I would.
no doubt.
I should do it now. I should do it now. Put it over there. Um, but yeah, Hemispheres, man. I mean, it's so awesome. I mean, even just from the very beginning where it does that, the way it comes in and crashes in, and you're in for a ride, and you sure get one for sure. And I mean that I love that whole section. I'm not sure which section it is. It's like right in the middle though, where he feels like you feel like you're floating in space, and it's like
Oh, he's using the vocal effect.
yeah, the vocal echo, and it sounds like you're like floating, and like you hear like distant Rush music going by your head, like
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I don't know what section. I just love that. It's so cool. Like all of a sudden you're like, what is happening? Like, how did it go from this hard rock to this? And it's just such a journey. And there's really not a note wasted. There's not anything wasted. It's 18 minutes of pure, amazing progressive rock. Unbelievable. I mean, these guys might be at the top of their game musically. I don't know. Who knows? I mean, they still played really amazingly for years, but this for some reason this album always feels like, man. And I always heard that they were pushing themselves as hard as they could on this album. It was like they really were on the what's the word, precipice,
Precipice.
yeah, precipice of their ability.
Supposedly, that's why they backed off on Permanent Waves, is that they just thought this was like them maxing it out, and we got to back it off a little bit because that was a bitch to get recorded, get it
Yeah,
all.
yeah, exactly. And I think La Via Strangiato was as well.
Yeah,
Like they kept trying to do it live in the studio and they couldn't get it. They kept trying to get it like from beginning to end, and they kept like it just was so difficult that they finally just said, forget it, just do it in three sections. And but man, what an instrumental! Like you said, nothing compares to it in my opinion. Nothing. I mean, YYZ, no, this is the one. This is the. I mean, I was just on the Prog corner. We were talking about Prog instrumentals, and this was almost on everyone's list. This is like this song just. It's like everyone concurs. Like this is the one.
Yeah, it's got
You
to
know.
be.
Yeah. Um, and Circumstances is like almost like the Cinderella Man of this album, where it's like,
It
man,
is. Yeah.
like you don't hear it that much, but man, it kicks.
Yeah. I'm a I'm a bootleg collector, and there's 5 soundboard recordings from this tour, and I had to go get them all because the first one I got was later in the tour, and they had dropped Circumstances for whatever reason, and I was like, not not good with that. I, I had heard that the early ones had it, so I'm like, I'm gonna gotta find all those too. And of course, I had to go find them all.
Absolutely, man. Gotta find it.
And yeah, they played the whole album on that tour.
They did.
Yeah, not straight,
Wow.
but all the songs
All
are
the
featured.
songs. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. That's cool. I love that. Um, so yeah, the
and
trees.
still playing. They were still playing Farewell to Kings, Xanadu, and Cygnus X1, and Closer to the Heart. So they were really
Wow,
concentrating on that proggy stuff.
man, wow. I could, like you said, I can see why after that tour they probably went, okay, that's enough of that.
Yeah,
Like I'm exhausted.
yeah,
That's got to be tiring to play that stuff, every night or every other night or whatever the tour itinerary was. But man, I can't imagine how tiring that would be. Because it just sounds like a workout just from the studio versions.
yeah.
You
It's
know,
funny that they couldn't get all the way through La Villa in the studio, and then they had to go play it every night live.
yeah,
So
yeah. They must have given themselves some slack or something. Just said, whatever, we make mistakes, so what?
yeah,
Just keep going. But man, I mean, actually, my buddy, the guy I was talking about earlier, my Rush buddy, he always contends that La Via is better on Exit Stage Left. He thinks it's the live version's better. I don't know. That's always his thing, but I don't know about that.
yeah. My friend Mr. Pardo says that too.
Yeah,
I think it comes from your mindset to begin with. If you're a live album guy, then you're going to believe that. But if
right.
me, I'm usually rarely do I think the live version is the definitive version of anything. So I like the studio version.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of the same way. I like Exit. Of course, I enjoy Exit Stage Left. I just think that Exit Stage Left could sound better. For some reason,
That's
sonically, it's not that great.
it's not. And the other thing that drives me crazy is the fade outs in
Yeah.
the way
Yes.
the album is cut. Why?
Why did yes.
No
Yes.
reason for that.
Who made
So
that decision?
honestly, I don't own it anymore. I had it on vinyl in the vinyl days. And when I graduated to CD, I had already had all these bootlegs, and I'm like, Exit Stage Left is not as good as the bootlegs I've got.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't have it anymore.
Yeah, for me the revelation came when I bought the anniversary edition of Moving Pictures and they have the concert on the other disc or whatever. And you're like,
Yeah.
and that's the real Exit Stage Left.
Yes.
Yeah. Now I get it. Yeah. So like, oh, okay, now I understand. It was almost like when I bought I'm a big Pink Floyd guy too. When I bought the Pink Floyd "Wish You Were Here" edition reissue or whatever, and I didn't realize that they had played the songs from Animals on the '74 tour. So it's kind of the same thing. We're like, whoa, my God, mind blower. Where it's like, whoa, this is like Dogs, even though it wasn't called Dogs, it was called something else. It's crazy. It's like, whoa, I didn't know these songs were being played back then. So
Yeah, the bands would do that back then. There's some Rush boots out there. I don't have them, but they did a second leg of the Hemispheres tour. It was called like Tour of the Semispheres, and they were previewing Free Will and Spirit of Radio on all those shows. But just back then, bands would see how does this go over? What do people like about these tunes? They would do that.
yeah, and they could do it without everyone recording it and putting it on the internet.
Yeah.
So it's like they could, they could experiment with stuff and not worry about it. But also the one other thing I was going to bring up on Hemispheres, last thing is this whole lyrical theme of like is it like I didn't understand. Is it like left brain, right brain, or is it heart and mind? Like it's almost like this theme of like d- that's what the hemisphere thing is like. It's about
Yeah,
like your
I think
heart
it's about
versus your
that.
mind. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, I always assumed that's what the brain was about, like the
Right.
two sides.
Yeah. That this is your carefree side, and this is your buttoned up.
Serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I never really understood. I just as a kid, I was like, oh, the guy's naked. Oh, yeah,
Yeah. I can't say I ever loved the cover. I don't dislike it, I guess, but I never got excited about the cover.
yeah. It's a little odd. It's a little different, but
And
you
this
know,
one's odd too, honestly. I mean,
yeah.
I think they're both Hugh. Are they Hugh Symes
I
already?
think they both are. Yeah,
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 probably.
yeah. I think I like this one better a little bit, just a little.
Yes, me too.
Um, but what's funny is you can barely see like the strings. They're supposed to be straight. It's like puppet, you know. You barely see them, but anyway. Um, but we're getting in sidetracked already. So yeah, so these are both amazing albums as we are getting through. We're just to these are both unbelievable Rush records. So what push comes to shove, of course, in what I do is I have to say if push comes to shove in these out on these battles, which one would you would choose if you had to choose?
Well, my buddy Anthony likes to do album battles on Facebook, and he thinks he's cute, and he puts in replies his reason for picking one of the other. One of them has and then he fills in with the thing that's the hammer, right? So I would
Oh,
say deciding between these two, one of them has a madrigal and one of them doesn't.
yeah.
This doesn't have a down second, much less a down song, and this does. It's not a real downer. It's not horrible, but it's down enough to lose to this. This is my favorite Rush album. Has been all the way through. I've never changed. So
Oh, it's your favorite?
this is my favorite album overall. And I
Wow.
will say this Permanent Waves Moving Pictures is also my favorite 4 album run of any band ever. I don't think you could top it. I don't
Yeah.
see how.
Yeah.
Especially now with longer albums where you're trying to put 12 good songs on an album. I mean, that's tough.
Well, and I would say that we're talking about Rush. I would say that did happen to Rush because it's like, like albums like for me, like Snakes and Arrows, I like a lot of that record, but it's too long in my
Yeah.
in my opinion, just my opinion. It's one of those where you're like, God, this like take two or three songs off of this, it'd be awesome, you
Yeah,
know?
you can say that about a lot of the later albums.
Yeah.
Even my favorite post mid 80s albums, probably Counterparts. And if if I could go in and edit it, I would kick a couple songs off just
Yeah,
for length. Yeah, it
right. Yeah. I'm the same way. Counterparts has a lot of great songs on it.
does.
Um,
Yeah.
but there's a couple you're like, really? This like it's almost like with I always my theory is that like with the CD thing, that it's the whole let's fill up the CD, and then it's like then it's also the thing of like the B-sides are making the album. You know what I mean? Like back in the day, that would be a B-side. You would keep that off the record and you'd put it out as a B-side or whatever. It would be, it feels like then in the 90s, the B-sides are making the album. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just my theory.
You notice they're a band that never did that. They never had like extra tracks laying around. Even though with all these box sets they've come out with through the years, there hasn't been an old track that surfaced somewhere. I mean, they wrote concise. What they had was what they had. You heard it all.
Yeah, yeah, they recorded it all. Yeah, they didn't put anything aside. I mean, and these albums are really compact. I mean, these like you said, these are like punches to the gut, both of these. They're just there's barely any fat on either of them. And like you said, I'm gonna concur with you that Hemispheres is my pick as well because for the same reasons. I mean, Closer to the Heart and Madrigal are, I as much brilliance as there is on Farewell to Kings, it's those two songs that kind of take it a little bit off the track for me. Whereas, like you said, just a little bit. I mean, it's like you said, there's still quibbles. It's not like I'm major criticism or anything. It's just those two songs um, aren't quite what it feels a little bit out of place. Whereas here, I don't really feel like anything's out of place. It's just
No.
and it's just punching you in the gut the whole time, which I want. Keep them coming, keep them coming.
Yeah. What
So
about the album on your shirt? Do you think that does the same thing?
permanent waves.
Yeah,
Oh,
you think
oh
it
God,
keeps this?
yeah.
Yeah,
I love permanent waves.
yeah,
Um,
me too.
yeah, I gotta say permanent. I mean, Jacob's Ladder. Um, I mean, and I still love the radio songs to this day. I mean, even like Spirit of Radio doesn't get old for me,
No,
you know.
and
Um,
it's got the us. They all seem to have that underrated track, and that one is Entre Nous. Entre Nous is so
oh,
good, so good.
Andre New's great. Oh my
And
God.
Natural Science is my second favorite Rush song after Hemispheres. I love Natural
Oh yeah,
Science.
Natural Science. How could I forget that? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I mean those they were really on a roll from, I mean, Rush has so many great records, but like they really were on a serious roll from like, from 2112 through Moving Pictures. And even, I mean, a lot of people, I still love Signals too, but a lot of people think Signals, people think Signals is a down. I don't really, I love Digital Man.
It's a, it's a little step down, but it's still great.
Still really good. I mean,
Yeah.
and Terry Brown knew what he was doing, you know.
Oh yeah. When he left, his loss was felt.
Hmm.
They indulged a lot of changes that many of them didn't work out for me. So I would have to say it was a negative for me, but I
Yeah,
get that they felt like they had to do something.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
And
was still there for Grace Under Pressure, and then it started to slowly slide after that for me.
yeah, yeah. I can see it. I mean, they definitely changed quite a bit. They really started to change. Whereas if you really loved albums like these, you'd be like, okay, what's happening here? They're changing a lot.
Yeah, where's the guitar?
Yeah, yeah,
What's with the Simmons drums?
yeah. Yeah, Alex completely changed his style, which I mean, he got more atmospheric instead of lead guitar. It was much more, how can I fit myself into these synths? And
doing that chimey sound too. He changed his tone. I mean, they
yeah,
made major changes. They didn't just tinker a little bit. They changed a lot.
no more Les Pauls. It's all like Fenders, you know, and
And then there's some people that love that era, so good for you. But it
yeah.
wasn't for me so much. I like the more grittier stuff. So when Counterparts came out, I was like, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, Counterpart. Here we go. This is Rush again. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love Counterparts. I agree. I think Counterparts is excellent. I like that's the one album that really got me back into like realizing that, oh, there's some good later stuff too. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you go, oh, I'm not going to worry about those later albums, and then I mean, what's your take? I mean, we're getting way off, but what's your take on Clockwork Angels? Do you like that record?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I do too. I mean,
I mean,
things like Carnies. I mean, it's heavy. I mean, it's like there's some heavy tracks on there.
yeah, that's when to me they're at their best when you're getting a healthy dose of Alex's grit.
Yeah.
The albums where that's lacking are the albums I kind of check out. Like,
Yeah. Like Power Windows is not for you, huh?
that one's still got a little something, but those next three, the Hold Your Fire,
You
Roll
fire.
the Bones, Presto thing, eh,
Yeah.
no bueno.
Yeah. No bueno.
Not so much for me. That's for somebody else.
Yeah, I mean that's great. Let some other people like those albums. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's funny. Oh man. All right. Well, I would say that we've hit all the high points, man. I don't know what else there is to say. I mean, do you have anything more, George, that we missed?
No, I think we pretty much encapsulated it. Two fantastic albums, and one of them just a little bit better.
Yep. Yep. I'd say so. That's kind of weird. And it's funny that we both had I mean, literally, we didn't compare notes. I swear to God, we had the
Oh,
same exact reviews, but I swear my notes are here. I'm not cheating. I actually had real, actually did my homework for this one. So, um, we didn't compare notes beforehand. I swear.
nope.
So, Well, thanks again. This was really fun, George. I really appreciate you coming on.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, you got the thumbs up from Eric, so that's my boy. If, and I watched those shows, so I was like, okay, yeah, this is cool. So
Awesome, man.
I
Thank
was
you.
all in.
Yeah. No, that's great. I appreciate it. Thank you so
He did a
much.
great job, of course.
Yeah. I'm doing my best, man. I'm trying to build a channel, so it takes some time.
It certainly does.
Yeah. Takes a lot of time. It's you don't realize until you start really digging in. You're like, oh, this is a lot of work.
Oh yeah.
You know.
I think
Uh,
a lot of these guys look from the outside and they see Tranquility's got 96,000 subs and they think, oh, I'll just talk about the same kind of stuff and do the same kind of shows and I'll be no, it's not that easy. It
no,
takes
it's not.
time and you
It's not.
know, keep coming up with content. You know, it's
Yeah.
just
I think that's what's probably challenging, right? Is just keeping the content coming constantly.
yes.
That's hard.
Keep it fresh for you and for the viewers. It's
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, it is. It is. And you really have to bring it. But I mean, but I think people like you and me, I mean, it's and Eric and who are a lot of people, they're just music people. They love talking about music. I mean, I do this anyway, even without the filming. I used to do this all the time with my buddies just over beer, you know. So,
Absolutely.
so it's just basically just doing it on camera instead of doing it at the bar. So,
I've said to the guys that if there was no Zoom, I mean, if there was no YouTube, I would still want to Zoom with them and do the same shit.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Because you just want to talk about bands that you love and music that you love. It touches you. It just you want to share it, you know? Um, just that's just the thing, as with a lot of people. So but
absolutely.
but yeah, man, thanks again and appreciate you being on here and hopefully we can do this again sometime and we'll think about another some other thing we can do. Um
Absolutely.
Figure it out. So I got to wrap it up. So thanks again, everybody. If you made it this far, we appreciate you. I always got to say, hit the like and subscribe down below, and appreciate that. Helps the channel. So thank you. And we're gonna wrap this up. We'll see you next time on Curless Mania. Go listen to Rush. Listen to those two albums in a row. Let me know what you think. All right, take care, guys. See you guys. Bye.
But